Maya Rodriguez woke up that Thursday morning, just like she had 1,000 times before. Her alarm went off at 6:30. She hit snooze once, then dragged herself out of bed. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of traffic outside her window. She made coffee in her small kitchen, the same way she always did. 2 spoons of sugar, a splash of milk. Nothing felt different. Nothing felt special. It was just another Thursday. She worked at a marketing company called Henderson & Associates. The office was downtown, in one of those glass buildings that looked exactly like every other glass building in the city. She'd been there for 3 years now. 3 years of meetings and presentations and birthday cakes in the break room. 3 years of saying good morning to the same people and eating lunch at the same desk. Maya wasn't unhappy with her job. She wasn't particularly happy either. It was just work. It paid the bills. It gave her something to do with her days. She was good at what she did, creating social media campaigns and writing copy for advertisements. Her boss, Mr. Henderson, had complimented her work several times. He was a decent man as far as bosses went. He didn't micromanage. He didn't yell. He remembered people's names and asked about their weekends. That morning, Maya got dressed in her usual work clothes. Black pants, a blue blouse, comfortable shoes, because she'd learned the hard way that fashion wasn't worth sore feet. She grabbed her laptop bag, checked that she had her keys and phone, and headed out the door. The subway was crowded as always. She stood pressed between strangers, everyone staring at their phones, lost in their own worlds. She arrived at the office building at 8:47. She knew the exact time because she glanced at her phone as she walked through the revolving doors. The lobby was busy with people coming and going. The security guard, Tom, gave her a small wave. She waved back. Tom had worked there longer than anyone could remember. He knew everyone's face, even if he didn't always remember their names. The elevator ride to the 4th floor was uneventful. 2 other people rode up with her, both getting off on lower floors. When the doors opened on 4, Maya stepped out into the familiar hallway. The marketing firm took up the entire floor. Glass walls, open workspace, a few private offices along the perimeter. It was designed to feel modern and collaborative, though Maya sometimes missed the idea of having actual walls and a door. She walked to her desk and set down her bag. Her coworker Jennifer was already there, typing away at her computer. Jennifer always arrived early. She was one of those people who seemed to have endless energy. Always cheerful, always organized. They'd become friends over the years, in that casual work friend way where you share lunch and complain about clients but don't really know each other outside the office. "Hey," Jennifer said, looking up from her screen. "Can you do me a favor?" "Sure," Maya said, pulling out her laptop. "What's up?" "I need a file from Mr. Henderson's office. He's in that 9 o'clock meeting with the Peterson account, so his office should be empty. The file should be on his desk." "It's a blue folder with the Jenkins proposal." Maya nodded. No problem, she didn't think twice about it. Running to grab files, making copies, these were normal parts of the day. She left her desk and walked down the hallway toward Mr. Henderson's office. It was one of the corner offices with windows overlooking the street below. The door was slightly open, which struck her as a bit odd because Mr. Henderson usually closed his door when he left for meetings. But maybe he'd been in a hurry. Maya knocked once. It was more out of habit than necessity. A quick tap of her knuckles against the doorframe. She didn't wait for a response because she knew no one was supposed to be inside. She pushed the door open wider and stepped in. That's when everything stopped. The office was completely silent, not the normal kind of quiet you get in an empty room. This was different. This was the kind of silence that feels heavy, that presses against your ears and makes your heart skip. Maya's eyes took in the scene, but her brain struggled to process what she was seeing. Mr. Henderson was sitting at his desk. His chair was pushed in close, his body upright like he was working. His eyes were open, staring straight ahead at his computer screen. For a split second, Maya thought maybe he was just very focused on something. Maybe he was reading an important email or thinking deeply about a problem. But then she noticed his hand. It was resting on the desk, fingers slightly curled, completely still. Too still. People moved even when they were sitting quietly. They breathed. They shifted. They blinked. Mr. Henderson was doing none of those things. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Her first instinct was to back out of the room, to pretend she hadn't seen anything, to go back to her desk and let someone else deal with whatever this was. But her feet wouldn't move. She stood frozen in the doorway, her hand still on the door handle, her mind racing to catch up with reality. "Mr. Henderson?" Her voice came out as barely a whisper. No response. Of course there was no response. She knew that. But saying his name felt like something she had to do. Like maybe if she said it, he would snap out of whatever this was and everything would be normal again. She took a small step forward. Her eyes scanned the desk. Papers were scattered across the surface, some of them marked with red pen. His coffee cup was tipped over, dark liquid spreading across what looked like a contract. The coffee had stopped dripping, which meant it had been spilled a while ago. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe longer. Maya's heart was pounding now, so loud she could hear it in her ears. She pulled her phone from her pocket with shaking hands. Who was she supposed to call? Jennifer, no, security. Maybe. But something told her this was beyond what Tom the security guard could handle. She dialed 911. Her fingers trembled as she pressed each number. The phone rang once, twice, then a voice answered. 911, what's your emergency? I'm at my office. I think something's wrong with my boss. Maya's voice sounded strange to her own ears, high and thin. What's the address? Maya gave the address, the floor number, trying to speak clearly even though her mind felt foggy. The dispatcher asked her questions. Was he breathing? Maya couldn't tell. She was afraid to get close enough to check. Was he responsive? No. No, he definitely wasn't responsive. I'm sending paramedics now, the dispatcher said. Can you stay on the line with me? Yes, Maya whispered. The dispatcher kept talking, asking her to describe what she saw, telling her help was on the way. But Maya barely heard the words. She was staring at the family photo on Mr. Henderson's desk, his wife smiling in a garden somewhere. 2 daughters, both young women, both with his same smile. They didn't know yet. They were somewhere out there living their normal Thursday morning, and they had no idea that everything had just changed. Maya noticed other things too, small details that suddenly felt important. A golf trophy on the shelf behind his desk, a half-eaten bagel still in its wrapper on the corner of the desk, a calendar with appointments written in neat handwriting. Someone was supposed to meet with him at 10. Someone was expecting him to show up. The office sounds continued outside the door, phones ringing, the printer humming, someone laughing in the distance. Life going on like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just shifted on its axis. Maya didn't know how long she stood there. Time felt strange, stretchy and slow. It could have been 2 minutes or 20. Eventually she heard footsteps running down the hallway. Voices calling out. The paramedics had arrived. The paramedics moved past Maya with practiced efficiency. She stepped back into the hallway, still holding her phone even though she'd hung up with the dispatcher. 2 men in dark blue uniforms entered Mr. Henderson's office. One carried a large red bag. The other spoke into a radio on his shoulder. Maya watched from the doorway. She couldn't look away even though part of her wanted to. The paramedics checked for vital signs. One of them pressed 2 fingers against Mr. Henderson's neck. The other pulled out equipment from the bag. They moved quickly but not frantically. There was something about their body language that told Maya everything she needed to know before they said a word. Other people started gathering in the hallway. Jennifer appeared first, her face pale and confused. Then David from accounting, then Rachel from human resources. Everyone asking questions. What happened? Is he okay? What's going on? Maya couldn't answer them. She opened her mouth but no words came out. She just shook her head and looked back into the office where the paramedics were still working. One of the paramedics finally stood up and walked over to where Maya and the others were standing. His face was kind but serious. He asked if anyone was the next of kin. No one was. He asked if anyone knew who to contact. Rachel said she had the emergency contact information in the office files. The paramedic spoke in a low voice, but Maya heard him anyway. Cardiac arrest. Likely happened quickly. There was nothing anyone could have done. Those last words echoed in Maya's head. Nothing anyone could have done. Was that supposed to be comforting? It didn't feel comforting. More people arrived. Building security. Someone from management. A police detective who needed to ask questions because this was an unexpected situation. They were all very polite about it, very professional. No one used certain words. No one said what had actually happened. But everyone knew. The detective, a woman with gray hair pulled back in a bun, asked to speak with Maya privately. They went into a nearby conference room. The detective's voice was gentle as she asked Maya to describe exactly what happened. What time did she arrive at the office? What time did she enter Mr. Henderson's room? Did she touch anything? Did she notice anything unusual? Maya answered as best she could, but the whole morning felt blurry now, like trying to remember a dream. She kept seeing that moment when she opened the door. The silence. The stillness. The way everything looked normal except it wasn't normal at all. You did the right thing calling immediately, the detective said. There's nothing you could have done differently. Maya nodded, but she didn't really believe it. Her mind kept circling back. What if she'd arrived 5 minutes earlier? What if she'd checked on him sooner? What if someone had noticed something was wrong before she walked in? The detective asked a few more questions, then said Maya was free to go. But where was she supposed to go? Back to her desk, home? She felt stuck, unable to move in any direction. When Maya stepped out of the conference room, the office had changed. People were standing in small groups, speaking in hushed voices. Some were crying. Jennifer was leaning against a wall, her hand covering her mouth. David was on his phone, probably calling his wife. Rachel was trying to organize everyone, figure out what to do next. Someone from upper management, a man Maya had only seen in company meetings, made an announcement. The office was closing for the day. Everyone should go home. Counseling services would be available. They would send out more information by email. Maya gathered her things from her desk in a daze. Her laptop, her bag, her coffee cup still half full from this morning when everything was normal. She walked to the elevator with a group of coworkers, but no one spoke. The ride down felt longer than usual. The hallway seemed too bright. The revolving doors too loud. Outside, the city continued as if nothing had happened. People rushing to meetings, delivery trucks blocking traffic, a street vendor selling hot dogs. Maya stood on the sidewalk, disoriented by the normalcy of it all. How could the world just keep going? How could people be buying hot dogs and checking their phones when something so terrible had just happened upstairs? She started walking. She wasn't sure where she was going at first, but her feet carried her toward the subway station. The platform was crowded with the usual mid-morning travelers. Maya squeezed into a train car and found a seat by the window. She stared at her reflection in the glass, barely recognizing herself. At home, Maya sat on her couch, still wearing her work clothes. Her apartment felt different somehow, smaller and quieter than before. She thought about calling someone. Her mother, her sister, her friend Lisa from college. But what would she say? How did you explain something like this? Her phone buzzed. Text messages from coworkers. Are you okay? Can you believe what happened? Let me know if you need anything. Maya read them but didn't respond. She didn't know how to put what she was feeling into words. She kept replaying those first seconds. The knock. The door swinging open. The silence. It played in her mind like a video on repeat. Each time she saw it, she noticed new details. The way the morning light came through the window. The pattern on Mr. Henderson's tie. The coffee stain spreading across those papers. Maya had never seen anyone who had passed away before. Not like that. Not so sudden and unexpected. Her grandmother had been in hospice, surrounded by family. Everyone prepared for the inevitable. This was different. This was a regular Thursday morning that turned into something else entirely. She thought about Mr. Henderson. Daniel, she corrected herself. That was his first name. She'd heard people use it, but had always called him Mr. Henderson. It felt too familiar to use his first name, even though he'd never asked her to be formal. Now she wished she'd called him Daniel. Now it seemed silly that she'd kept that distance. What had he been thinking in those last moments? Was he working on something important? Was he thinking about that meeting he was supposed to attend? Or was he thinking about his family, his wife, his daughters? Did he know something was wrong? Did he have time to be scared? Maya stood up and went to the bathroom. She splashed cold water on her face and looked at herself in the mirror. She looked tired, pale, older somehow than she had this morning. Events like this changed people, she'd heard that before. She'd never really understood what it meant until now. She changed out of her work clothes and put on sweatpants and an old t-shirt, comfort clothes. She made tea but didn't drink it. She turned on the television but didn't watch it. She picked up a book but couldn't focus on the words. As evening came, Maya found herself thinking about all the ordinary moments that made up a life. Mr. Henderson had woken up this morning, just like she had. He'd probably made coffee, gotten dressed, maybe kissed his wife goodbye. He'd come to work expecting a normal day, Meetings, emails, problem solving. He had no idea it would be his last morning. It made Maya think about her own life. How many mornings did she have left? How many days? There was no way to know. Nobody got a warning. Nobody got to prepare. You just woke up and lived your day and hoped you'd get another one tomorrow. Her phone rang. It was Jennifer. Maya almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hey. Jennifer's voice was thick, like she'd been crying. I just wanted to check on you. That was really intense today. Yeah, Maya said. It was. I can't stop thinking about it, Jennifer continued. I keep thinking that could have been me finding him. If I hadn't asked you to get that file. Don't think like that, Maya said, though she'd been thinking the same thing. Why her? Why had she been the one to walk in? They talked for a while, circling around the same thoughts and feelings. Neither of them had answers. Neither of them felt better after talking. But somehow it helped not to be alone with it. After they hung up, Maya lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep felt impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that office. The silence. The stillness. The moment when she realized something was terribly wrong. Tomorrow there would be more to deal with. Phone calls, arrangements, the office figuring out what to do next. But tonight, Maya just lay there in the dark, thinking about how fragile everything was, how quickly a normal day could become the worst day, how life could change in the time it took to knock once and walk through a door. Maya woke up Friday morning feeling like she hadn't slept at all. Maybe she hadn't. The night had been a blur of tossing and turning, brief moments of unconsciousness interrupted by images she couldn't shake. She reached for her phone and saw several emails from the company. Grief counselors would be available. The office would remain closed Friday. There would be information about services once the family made arrangements. She got out of bed and went through the motions of her morning routine, but everything felt off. Coffee tasted like nothing. The shower water felt either too hot or too cold. Her reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger. Her mother called mid-morning. Somehow the news had reached her, probably through the family grapevine. Maya's cousin worked at a company in the same building. Word traveled fast. Are you okay, sweetheart? Her mother asked, concern heavy in her voice. Maya wanted to say yes. She wanted to be strong and capable, but instead she found herself crying. Really crying for the first time since it happened. Her mother listened as Maya poured out the whole story. The knock, the door, the silence, how she couldn't stop seeing it, couldn't stop thinking about it. Come home for the weekend, her mother said. Get out of the city. Be with family. Maya almost said no. She had things to do, responsibilities. But what things? What responsibilities? The office was closed. She had nowhere to be. And suddenly the idea of being in her parents' house, surrounded by familiar things and people who loved her, sounded like exactly what she needed. She packed a small bag and caught a train out to the suburbs where she'd grown up. Her mother met her at the station, pulling her into a tight hug that made Maya feel like a child again. Sometimes that's exactly what you needed to feel. Her father was at the house, working in the garden like he always did on weekends. He gave her a long look, didn't say much, just squeezed her shoulder in that way fathers do when they don't have words. They ordered pizza for dinner, her favorite kind from the place near her old high school. They watched a movie together, some comedy that nobody really paid attention to. It was normal and boring and exactly what Maya needed. But that night, lying in her childhood bedroom, the thoughts came back. She stared at the ceiling, at the glow-in-the-dark stars she'd put up when she was 12. She thought about Daniel Henderson and his daughters. Were they lying awake too? Were they in their childhood bedrooms trying to make sense of a world without their father? Saturday morning came with rain. Maya sat at the kitchen table with her mother, drinking coffee and watching the water stream down the windows. Her mother talked about the neighbors, about her book club, about ordinary things that felt like a lifeline to normalcy. I keep thinking about how random it all was, Maya said suddenly. If Jennifer hadn't asked me to get that file, if I'd waited even 5 more minutes, I wouldn't have been the one to find him. Her mother reached across the table and took her hand. But you were the one. And that's hard, but maybe there's a reason. What reason could there possibly be? I don't know, her mother admitted. Maybe just that he wasn't alone. Maybe it matters that someone found him quickly, that someone cared enough to call for help even when it was too late. Maybe that means something. Maya wanted to believe that. She wanted to think there was meaning in the randomness. But mostly it just felt senseless. The funeral was announced for Tuesday. Maya knew she had to go, though the thought filled her with dread. She'd been to funerals before, but this was different. This was someone she'd seen just moments after they'd passed. This was someone whose last moments she'd witnessed, even if she'd arrived too late to be truly present for them. Sunday evening, Maya took the train back to the city. The weekend with her parents had helped, but she still felt fragile, like she was made of glass that might shatter at any moment. Her apartment felt cold and empty. She tried to eat dinner but had no appetite. She tried to watch television but couldn't focus. She ended up just sitting on her couch in the dark, thinking. Monday the office reopened, but it wasn't the same. People moved quietly through the halls. Conversations were hushed. Jennifer hugged Maya when she arrived, holding on longer than normal. Other coworkers stopped by her desk throughout the day asking how she was, offering support that felt both genuine and awkward because, what do you really say in these situations? The grief counselor came in the afternoon, a woman with a soft voice and a calm presence. She met with people individually and in groups. Maya went to one of the group sessions, sitting in a circle with 5 other coworkers. They talked about shock and grief and how to cope with sudden loss. It all made sense intellectually, but emotionally Maya still felt numb. Mr. Henderson's office remained closed. Someone had put a small memorial outside the door. Flowers, cards, a photo. People stopped by throughout the day to add their tributes. Maya walked past several times but couldn't bring herself to stop. What would she write? What could she possibly say? Tuesday morning arrived too quickly. The funeral was at 11. Maya put on a black dress she'd worn to her grandmother's service years ago. She met Jennifer at the church and they walked in together. The place was packed. Hundreds of people filling every pew, standing along the walls. Maya hadn't realized how many lives one person could touch. They sat toward the back. Maya's hands were shaking. She gripped them together in her lap, trying to steady herself. The service started with music, something classical that Maya didn't recognize. Then people began to speak. Daniel Henderson's business partner talked about their 30 years working together. A friend from college shared stories about their younger days, getting laughs from the crowd with tales of pranks and adventures. Then his wife stood up to speak. She was smaller than Maya had imagined, elegant in a simple black dress, her face composed despite the obvious pain in her eyes. She talked about their marriage. 32 years. She talked about the morning he left for work on Thursday, how he'd kissed her goodbye like always, how he'd reminded her they had dinner plans that evening at their favorite restaurant, how he'd never made it to that dinner. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. She wasn't the only one. All around her, people were crying quietly. Jennifer had her hand over her mouth, shoulders shaking. Then one of the daughters spoke. She was in her mid-20s, with her father's dark hair and his same warm smile. Though it was strained now with grief, she talked about growing up with a father who never missed a soccer game, who helped with homework even when he didn't understand the new math, who taught her to drive and stayed calm even when she accidentally backed into a mailbox. My dad was just a regular person, she said, her voice breaking. He wasn't famous. He didn't cure diseases or write great novels. He just went to work every day and came home and loved his family and tried to be a good person, and I think maybe that's the most important thing anyone can be. Just a good person who shows up and cares and loves the people around them. The words hit Maya hard. Daniel Henderson had been exactly that. A regular person living a regular life, going to work, doing his job, being kind to his employees, going home to his family. There was something both ordinary and profound about it. After the service, people gathered outside. It had stopped raining, and weak sunlight filtered through the clouds. Maya stood with Jennifer and a few other co-workers, not really talking, just being present together. She watched Daniel's wife and daughters accepting condolences from an endless stream of people. So many lives connected to one person. On the way back to the office, Maya was quiet. Jennifer tried to make conversation, but Maya could barely respond. Her mind was full of thoughts she couldn't quite organize, thoughts about life and death and meaning and randomness, about how we're all just moving through our days not knowing which day might be our last. Back at the office, work felt impossible. Maya sat at her desk staring at her computer screen without seeing it. She had emails to answer, projects to complete, but it all seemed so pointless now. What did any of it matter? What did social media campaigns and marketing strategies matter in the grand scheme of things? She left early, claiming a headache. It wasn't exactly a lie. Her whole body ached with exhaustion and emotion. At home, she changed into comfortable clothes and curled up on her couch. She thought about calling someone but didn't know what she would say. As evening fell, Maya found herself thinking about her own life. She'd been at her job for 3 years. It was fine. It paid the bills. But was that enough? Was that all life was supposed to be? Going to a job that was fine, coming home, repeating it all the next day. Before this week, that had seemed like enough. But something had shifted. Walking into that office and finding Daniel Henderson had opened a door in her mind, and she couldn't close it again. Life was short. Life was unpredictable. Life didn't wait for you to be ready. She'd always talked about going back to school. She'd majored in psychology as an undergraduate, had dreamed of becoming an art therapist. But after graduation, jobs were scarce and student loans were overwhelming. She'd taken the marketing job as a temporary thing, a way to pay bills until she figured out her real path. 3 years later, she was still there, still putting off her dreams for someday. But what if someday never came? What if she kept waiting for the perfect time and that time never arrived? Daniel Henderson had probably... The weeks following the funeral passed in a strange blur. Maya went to work, completed her projects, attended meetings. On the surface, everything returned to normal. The office found its rhythm again. Someone new was hired to take over Daniel Henderson's responsibilities. His office was cleaned out, his personal items given to his family, the space reassigned. But beneath the surface, nothing felt the same. Maya moved through her days with a new awareness, a consciousness of how temporary everything was. She noticed things she'd overlooked before. The way morning light came through her apartment window, the taste of her coffee, the sound of rain against glass. Small moments that used to pass unnoticed now felt significant, worth paying attention to. She'd started the application process for graduate school. It was complicated, requiring transcripts and recommendation letters and a personal statement explaining why she wanted to pursue art therapy. Maya worked on her application in the evenings, sitting at her kitchen table with papers spread around her. Writing the personal statement was harder than she'd expected. How did you explain the shift that happened inside you? How did you put into words the way witnessing someone's final moments made you reevaluate your entire life? She wrote and rewrote, trying to be honest without being morbid, trying to explain her motivation without making it sound like a crisis response. Jennifer noticed something was different. They were having lunch together one day, sitting in the break room like they'd done hundreds of times before, when Jennifer said, "You've been quiet lately. More than usual." Maya picked at her salad. "I've been thinking a lot. About Mr. Henderson." "About everything," Maya said. "About what I'm doing with my life. Whether I'm actually happy or just going through the motions." Jennifer nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about that too. That whole thing really messed me up. Made me wonder if I'm wasting time, you know." They talked for a while about dreams and fears and the gap between the life you have and the life you want. It felt good to speak honestly, to admit that she wasn't okay, that what happened had changed something fundamental in how she saw the world. "I'm applying to grad school," Maya said finally. "Art therapy. It's what I wanted to do before, but I got scared. Took this job instead because it felt safer." "That's amazing," Jennifer said, and she meant it. "When would you start?" "If I get in next fall. I'd need to give notice here in the summer." Saying it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. This wasn't just an idea anymore. This was a plan, a path forward, a choice to stop waiting for someday. Spring arrived slowly. The city transformed from gray and cold to green and alive. Trees bloomed. People shed their winter coats. The world renewed itself like it did every year, indifferent to human grief and loss. Maya kept working on her application. She asked her undergraduate professors for recommendation letters. She wrote and rewrote her personal statement until she felt it honestly represented who she was and why she wanted this. She submitted everything just before the deadline, then waited. Waiting was torture. The program wouldn't send decisions until late April. Every day Maya checked her email, her heart jumping at every notification. She tried not to think about it, tried to focus on work and daily life, but it was always there in the back of her mind. Meanwhile, the office continued to change. The new senior partner, a woman named Lisa Chen, brought different energy to the space. She was younger than Daniel Henderson had been, more casual in her approach. She remembered everyone's names and made an effort to connect with people. Maya liked her, though there was something sad about how quickly the office adapted, how life just moved on, filling the space left by loss. Maya found herself thinking about Daniel Henderson's family. His wife, his daughters. What were they doing now? How were they coping? The world had moved on for everyone else, but for them, the loss was still fresh and raw. She thought about sending a card or a message but didn't know what to say. What comfort could she possibly offer? One Saturday afternoon, Maya did something she'd been avoiding. She went back to the office building. It was empty on weekends, quiet except for building maintenance and security. Tom, the security guard, was at his desk reading a newspaper. "Hey, Maya," he said, looking up. "Working on a Saturday?" "Just need to grab something," she lied. She took the elevator to the 4th floor. The office was dark, lit only by emergency lights and sunlight coming through the windows. Maya walked slowly through the space, past her desk, past Jennifer's desk, down the hallway toward where Daniel Henderson's office had been. The door was open. The office had been completely transformed. New furniture, different arrangement. Lisa Chen's personal items on the desk and shelves. There was no trace of the man who'd occupied this space before. No evidence of that Thursday morning when everything changed. Maya stood in the doorway trying to remember it as it had been. But the memory was already fading, becoming less sharp, less immediate. Maybe that was how it was supposed to be. Maybe you couldn't carry those intense moments forever. Maybe they had to fade so you could keep living. She turned and walked back down the hallway, back to the elevator, back outside into the spring sunshine. She felt lighter somehow, like she'd needed to face that space one more time to finally let it go. April came. Maya's birthday passed quietly. She turned 28. Her parents took her to dinner. Her sister sent a funny card. It was nice, but Maya couldn't help thinking about Daniel Henderson. He wouldn't have any more birthdays. His daughters wouldn't get to call him. His wife wouldn't get to plan a surprise party or buy him a gift. The thought didn't depress Maya exactly. It just made her more determined to live fully, to not waste the time she had. Finally, on a Thursday afternoon in late April, the email came. Maya was at her desk when her phone buzzed. She almost didn't check it, but something made her look. When she saw the subject line, "Graduate Program Decision," her heart stopped. She couldn't open it at her desk. She needed privacy for this. She grabbed her phone and walked quickly to the bathroom, locking herself in a stall. Her hands shook as she opened the email. "Congratulations. We are pleased to offer you admission." Maya read the sentence 3 times before it sank in. She'd gotten in. They wanted her. This was really happening. She sat there in the bathroom stall, tears streaming down her face, a smile breaking across her features. She'd done it. She'd taken the first step toward changing her life. When she returned to her desk, Jennifer took one look at her face and knew. "You got in," she said. Maya nodded, unable to speak. Jennifer hugged her tightly. "I'm so happy for you. And I'm going to miss you like crazy." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Maya had to formally accept the admission offer. She had to figure out financial aid and student loans. She had to start planning the logistics of being a full-time student again. It was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once. She waited until May to tell her boss. Lisa Chen was supportive and kind about it. "That's wonderful news," she said. "We'll be sorry to lose you, but I completely understand. You have to follow your dreams." Maya worked out her notice period. Her last day would be in late August, giving her time to wrap up projects and help train her replacement. It felt real now. She was really doing this. On weekends, Maya started preparing. She looked at apartments near the university. She sold furniture she wouldn't need. She began the slow process of dismantling one life and preparing to build another. Sometimes she thought about that Thursday morning in March. It felt both very recent and very long ago. She wondered if she would have made these changes without that experience. Probably not. She would have kept coasting, kept telling herself someday, kept playing it safe. Daniel Henderson's passing had been a tragedy. There was no way around that. A good man had gone too soon. A family had lost someone they loved. But it had also been a catalyst, a wake-up call that Maya desperately needed. She didn't know if believing that made her a bad person. Using someone's tragedy as motivation for your own life seemed somehow selfish. But she also thought maybe Daniel would have understood. Maybe he would have wanted his